this time, I'll call into open session this meeting of the Arlington ISD Board of Trustees on June 29th, beginning at 7:01 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for being with us this evening. We'll start our meeting with the opening ceremony. Please join Ms. Walton in leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Now, if I may ask, please silence all cell phones and electronic devices to avoid any disruptions to those around you. And now, if you would join me in a moment of silence. All right. We have, the first item on our agenda tonight is the consideration of ratification of administrative appointments. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, President Rice. I'd like to recommend that the board ratify the appointments of the individuals discussed in closed session for assistant principals for Sam Houston High School.
Move that we accept the nominations for assistant principals at Sam Houston High School.
Second.
Hearing a motion from Mr. Hibbs, a second from Ms. Sullins. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. All trustees present vote in the affirmative. Mr. Hogg is not with us. He will be joining us later this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, President Rice, and it's my pleasure to introduce our assistant principal for Sam Houston High School, Ms. Macy Holloway. Macy attended the University of Texas at Arlington for a Bachelor of Arts in English, University of Texas at Arlington for a Master in Education in Math and Curriculum and Instruction. Most recently, the Secondary Advanced Academics Specialist, has been an instructional coach at Sam Houston High School, has taught Algebra 1 and Geometry at Arlington High School, has taught AP Language and Composition, and has been a Director of Curriculum and Training. Macy, congratulations.
Thank you, President Reich, members of the board, Dr. Cavazos. Thank you for the opportunity to stand before you and accept the great responsibility and honor of joining the administrative team as an assistant principal at Sam Houston High School. I want to thank my family for supporting this career decision and enduring countless hours of graduate school and postgraduate work. They are a pillar of strength in my drive. I want to thank my mentor, Jackie McClendon, who has shown and continues to prove to me that a bold female leader can also be a compassionate and vulnerable. And thank you, Fernando Benavides, a person I will always desire to emulate, a principal who continues to go above and beyond for his students, a man who's not afraid to push boundaries and take risks, one of which was taking a chance on a young professional 3 years ago and let me loose in the math department. Thank you for trusting me with the staff and students of Sam Houston. May God grant me and my colleagues wisdom and discernment in the years to come. Thank you also, Dr. Horton and Dr. Garcia, for learning experience in the Advanced Academics Department. And lastly, thank you to the Sam family for making the halls of Sam Houston home. Sam side, Sam pride.
Next, I'd like to introduce Ms. Erin Montgomery as the new assistant principal at Sam Houston High School. Erin attended Indiana University for her Bachelor of Arts in Secondary Education in Spanish, University of Texas at Arlington for a Master of Arts in Ed Leadership and Policy Studies. Most recently, the Dean of Instruction at Carter Junior High School, has been an assistant principal at Carter Junior High, has taught Spanish and has been an AVID coordinator, has also worked in human resources, her prior experience, a substitute teacher, and the U.S. Air Force Reserves. Erin, congratulations.
Thank you, President Reich, members of the board, Dr. Cavazos. Thank you for the opportunity to continue leading and growing in the Arlington ISD. I am so fortunate to have come into contact with so many leaders in education, from the district office to the classroom. Mr. Lizardo and Ms. Wilman-Sonato, thank you so much for your consistent support and for pushing me to push myself. Mr. Benavides, thank you for entrusting me to be a part of your leadership team at Sam Houston. I look forward to working with the entire Texan family to my family. My dad is here, my good friend, Miss Shalina Kreiner, and my boys. If you know me, you know that I have 5-year-old twins who will not sit still. So they are home watching me. Hi, babies. And as I leave Carter and enter Sam Houston, I look forward to seeing the 8th graders from my very first year at Carter be graduating seniors this upcoming school year. So that'll be a great milestone for me. I am looking forward to continuing on to support students in realizing their potential, celebrating their successes, and getting them through high school and to higher education. Thank you.
And although she's not able to attend tonight, we'd like to announce Ms. Christy Sullivan as the new assistant principal at Sam Houston High School. Christy attended the University of Texas at Arlington, Bachelor of Science in Biology, UNT Denton for Master of Ed in Secondary Education, most recently a student support interventionist at Sam Houston High School, has taught biology, 5th grade, 3rd grade, has been an Aspire mentor, an RTI specialist, and a biology and chemistry teacher. So we will bring Christy Sullivan at a later board meeting to introduce her, but she's also going to join the assistant principal team at Sam Houston High School.
Very good, thank you, and welcome. As is our custom, we ask that the appointees follow Mr. Kale to the lobby for a receiving line, so each of us can meet you and welcome you. And to the audience, if you would please let the board go first, we'd appreciate that so that we can get back to business sooner than later. So we will take a brief break to participate. It is 7:08. We'll come back approximately around 7:20. Thank you. I'll now call this meeting back to order. Next on our agenda is public hearing, which we do not have one, so I'll move on. So that the next item is the open forum for agenda items. I do not see any cards, Ms. Benjamin, is that correct? Okay, so no cards, so we will move on then from open forum. And we'll move right in to action items, which we have one. Letter A, consider TASB Local Policy Update 108 and Board Policies BDAA Local and FMG Local. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, President Reich. And at this time, we'd like to bring for action our Policy Update 108 and the policies referenced. Mr. Hill will have a presentation. As you recall, we've brought this for as a discussion item, and the Governance Committee has reviewed these policies as well. So, Mr. Hill, give us an overview.
Yes, thank you, and President Reich, board members, and Dr. Cavazos. Again, this is an overview presentation that was presented last week to kind of give you a discussion of the Update 108 and a couple of local policies, BDAA and FMG. So a little bit of background. Update 108 addresses both several recent changes in both state and federal law, including administrative code regulations that have been changed. As we all know, the legal updates are the law. We don't have much say on what we can do with those. We just, we can't even adopt them. The local policies need board action to adopt, revise, or repeal the policy as it is presented. Just a little bit about our review process. Occasionally, maybe 2 to 3 times a year, depending on what comes out of Austin, we get what we call the update. It's a packet. This one has 33 legal policies and 8 locals and a few exhibits, and we get these from TEA, and we review them internally with the senior administrators, and then we kind of farm them out through the different departments throughout the district and let the end users review the policy, both legal and local, and just review them through the lens of what impact those changes may have on their work that they do every day. We also solicit input from the end users on the local policy as to what how does this impact your work? Because we do, as an administration, have the opportunity to recommend to you, the board, to change some local policies. And so If the end users are having struggles or it's challenging for them to implement that policy, then we can make adjustments to that to recommend to the board. Next steps in that would be a review by the legal department of our both local and legal policies, and again, looking through the lens of how we can implement those policies and the impacts that they have. Then, as you are well aware, we take that before the Board Governance Committee for preliminary look at it to see how the policies may impact and if there's any more input that's needed from the board. We take those changes and or recommendations and we'll send them back to Austin to TASB. We have a policy representative that's works with me very closely on the district policies, and we'll have them to look at it for is it legally acceptable? Are there any other policy languages that they may recommend? Then we'll discuss it as we did last week with the full board, and then we'll come back for adoption at a later date. And so that's kind of why we're here today. I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about the process of what the policy review looks like. And again, this is one with 33 legal, I believe, and maybe 7 or 8 local. Sometimes the policy updates come with as many as 100 legal and local policies. We anticipate that it would be many more than that after the legislative session and update 109 potentially. So again, 108 is 33 legal and 7 local and 4 exhibits. Here's just a little review of some of the policies that are in there, as well as BDAA and FMG, which are not a part of update 108, but it was, again, what we're recommending from administration with regard to a change in policy. Just a closer look at some of the policies that are included here. And I won't go through all of these. You can read them, they were in the packet, but I'll highlight a couple. If you look at EFA, it's talking about instructional material. It's not really a change in policy, but TASB recommends that we move it from EFA to EF to better align with the policy language. If you look at GKB, it's one that TASB recommends about accepting paid political advertising. And so we wanted to bring a highlight that the district does not accept not only paid, but no political advertising. FMG is one that we're bringing, which allows the superintendent to designate the appropriate staff member to approve in-state overnight trips. That was one that would help us, kind of better operational within the district. A few of the legal policies here, employee standards of conduct. It specifies again in law that if there's an employee that is inappropriate with a child or a minor in any way, that the superintendent must report that to the State Board of Educator Certification. Again, that's the law. FEA talks about the compulsory attendance, and FOC, student discipline, and those lists of Title V on or off-campus felonies better align with the penal code. There are other changes throughout the policy that simply relocate policies from one area to another for better alignment according to the recommendations. So at this point, we would recommend that the board approve update 108, the local policies presented, and BDAA and FMG with the revisions that are presented to you tonight. Next steps, if approved, we'll communicate with TASB and make sure that our online policy repository reflects the changes that you will approve tonight if that's the decision that's made. And we'll continue to inform our end users about how these policies may or may not impact their work. So at this point, I'll be willing to take any questions about update 108.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. We do have some questions. First up, Ms. Mays.
Thank you, President Reich. Thank you, Mr. Hill. Quick question. For the review process, when the legal department reviews the local and legal policy changes here, any changes that they recommend goes to the committee. Then if TASB recommends any changes, does that go back to the committee or does that come to the full board, the TASB recommended changes?
Depending on where we are in the process, but most of the times we'll take it back through the committee and then out to the full board.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Mays. Ms. Hudson.
Thank you, President Reich. Mr. Hill, I just wanted to take a minute to thank you for going over the process. I think a lot of times when we get up here, how we got here can be a little mysterious for the people at home. And there is a lot of work that goes into these updates. I was reflecting, I've been on the board for 2 years, and we've had 6 policy updates during that time, some of them quite large. And it's a full review process at the front end, then a full review by the board, and then your work is not done. It's implementing those policies throughout the district. So our budget usually gets a lot of attention, but this work is equally as important, and it is an incredible amount of work and time investment on your part and staff's part, and I just really appreciate it, and I appreciate you sharing that with everybody tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, I'll go ahead and move to approve.
Okay, there are other lights, but we can entertain that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second. Oh,
Too slow. Mr. Hibbs has the second.
Gladly defer.
And any other comments from you, Ms. Hudson? Okay. Mr. Hibbs?
Mr. Hill, thank you for the presentation. On DHB legal, as far maybe, and even the governance team can tell me on this, from my understanding, from when I was at SLI a couple of weeks back in San Antonio, this is actually going to be expanded, is it not, from this last session? My understanding was they were taking it beyond the superintendent to the administrators on campus, correct?
Yes, that's correct. And as these laws get implemented and they get signed off on, we get a new policy update that comes. But yes, that will eventually be with the principals.
And there was a law, and it's the principals, Mr. Hibbs. Those laws some go into effect immediately, some are September 1, and some even go into January 1. So it's depending on those, but as Mr. Hill said earlier, we'll get another round of updates,
Sure.
usually pretty big ones after each legislative session.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that I did hear that that's being expanded to the campus level.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Hibbs. I see no further lights indicating no further discussion. There's a motion on the table. Please vote. All trustees present vote in the affirmative. Policy update is complete. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on is items to be withdrawn from the consent agenda. Are there any items trustees wish to remove from the consent agenda, consider separate? Very good. So we'll move on to the consent agenda. And Ms. Powell, please share any bids and other information with us.
President Rice, board members, Dr. Cavazos, there are 4 bids on the agenda for your consideration this evening, and in all cases, the administration recommends the low bids and the bids that represent the best value to the district.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Powell. I see no lights. Would be interested in entertaining a motion if there's no discussion.
I move that we accept the consent agenda.
I will second that motion.
Okay, move to accept from Mr. Hibbs, second by Ms. Walton. Seeing no lights, no discussion further, please vote. All trustees vote in the affirmative. Consent passes. Moving right along. We have no discussion items this evening. The next category would be open forum for non-agenda items. I see no cards. Ms. Benjamin, is that correct? There are no cards, therefore we will move on. Next to the superintendent's report.
No report.
No report. School board reports. Any trustees have reports or information to share this evening? All right. Well, I will ask to be complete and official. Madam Secretary, do we have any items to consider?
No, President Wright.
Okay. All right. Well then, it is 7:28 on the clock here. We will now move to a closed meeting pursuant to sections 551.071 and 551.074 for the purpose of hearing an employee's complaint regarding wages, hours, and conditions of employment. I ask, will all persons not participating in this hearing please excuse themselves at this time so we may conduct this hearing. Action, if any, will be taken in open session. It is now 10:07, 10:08 p.m. On June 29, 2017, we are reconvening into open session. The board did not take any vote or action or other action in closed meeting. The board has heard the complaint of Julie Harcrow. Under Board Policy DGBA Local, the burden is on the grievant to show the administration acted arbitrary and capriciously, violated board policy, or violated state or federal law. This was a difficult grievance in many respects, including the fact that Ms. Harcrow resigned her contract on March 17, 2017, effective the end of the 2016-17 school year. Do I hear a motion?
I move to affirm the Level 3 decision and find that Ms. Harcrow has been given a name-clearing hearing and established her good name, and the board leaves to the superintendent to consider the relief Ms. Harcrow has requested.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Sullins, a second by Mr. Hogg. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. All trustees present vote in the affirmative. I hereby declare this hearing closed, or this grievance hearing closed.